In the Mesoamerican tradition, divination, daily ritual sacrifices tended to take place within ceremonial centers. Sometimes these were monumental ceremonial centers that were themselves replicas on a smaller scale of the cosmos. This indicates to us that these activities that were taking place on a daily schedule, whether it was eating, whether it was walking, dancing, or trying to read the signs of the future, they were always intimately involved with what these people thought was taking place in the celestial world. And one of the places where we see this relationship between the microcosm of the ceremonial center and its divinations and the macrocosm of the universe and its celestial patterns linked up is in the book known as the Codex Mendoza. The Codex Mendoza is a beautiful codex that was painted in the 1540s, around 1542, by indigenous painters working with Spaniards to present a document that would be sent to the King of Spain. It was set up by the Viceroy Mendoza. That's why it's called the Codex Mendoza. And here we can see the frontispiece of it. And in the frontispiece we see not only an orderly ceremonial center, which is the city. Here you see in 4 parts, inside of these blue lines representing the Lake of Mexico and crossed by blue lines. But within that space, within that symmetrical space, we see all kinds of images representing the way in which the Aztecs themselves tried to understand the present in terms of a past that they felt would spill into the future. For instance, in this particular image, what we see, first of all, is a 51-year calendar that surrounds the entire ceremonial center. This tells us that human space and human action, and especially divination, is always set within the context of a great cycle of time. In this case, even though there's 51 boxes, they represent the 52-year cycle. And each of them has not only a dot which represents a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's a series of symbols, series of signs, temple, rabbit, knife, and reed. And each of these numbers and each of these signs has a meaning in the divination of life. And as we look around the outside of this 52-year cycle, we come to one of the dates, which shows clearly how divination takes place in the Aztec world. It's here at the bottom. It happens to be the date 2 reed, and you'll see that 2 reed has a knot tied across it, and above it is a sign of a fire-making instrument. And this tells us that the Aztecs understood these series of dates here to be the ending of a 52-year cycle, and these over here the beginning of another 52-year cycle. And this particular year was the joining of these 2 celestial cycles. And they called this particular year, or the ceremony that's represented here, the binding of the years. That is the binding of 2 celestial cycles. And here's the point. Human beings on Earth had to participate in this binding of these 2 great celestial cycles by carrying out certain ritual activities, the binding of the years. And the way they carried this out was by watching a certain star cluster pass across the meridian in the sky at night, and being able to anticipate when it would pass, because if they could read this correctly, this passage of the stars, of the Pleiades, they could then carry out rituals on Earth that would not only satisfy the gods, but set them successfully on the next 52-year cycle of the world. And they had to be able to link up and to be able to understand, divine, how to link up what would take place in their rituals and what would take place in the sky. So in this, you see immediately the ceremonial center itself is set within this great cycle of years, showing this linkage between the macrocosmos and the microcosmos and the role of ritual in tying these 2 systems together. So we see in this example of the Codex Mendoza this linkage between the macrocosm and the microcosm through the observation of nature.
Reading about the John Snow Cub.
Learn more at predictionx.org, where you can stay up to date on all of our latest offerings and interviews.